When we talk about spiritual awakening, we're diving into one of the most profound journeys of human existence. It's not an event, a destination, or even a single transformative realization. It's a process, an unfolding of the self, a shift in consciousness. And yet, spiritual awakening doesn't always come with fireworks. It's subtle, quiet, like the first hint of sunlight breaking over the horizon. But there are signs, powerful, undeniable signs, that someone has begun this journey or reached this state of awakening. Today, we're going to explore these signs in depth, peeling back the layers to uncover what it truly means to be spiritually awakened. And when you do, this improves your physical appearance, because we're just going to begin discussing the ways you measure these days, as well as how to avoid them. Frosty irons. The first thing to understand is that awakening isn't about escaping life. It's about entering it fully. It's about seeing the world for what it really is and, more importantly, seeing yourself for who you truly are. One of the most powerful signs of an awakened person is a profound sense of presence. Have you ever been around someone who seems to radiate calmness? Someone who feels so deeply rooted in the moment that their presence alone can quiet your mind? That's what we're talking about. This presence comes from a deep realization. The past is gone. The future is uncertain, and the only thing that truly exists is now. Most of us spend our lives trapped in our minds, replaying old memories or worrying about what's to come. But the awakened person has seen through this illusion. They've realized that life only happens in the present moment, and they live in such a way that every breath, every step, every second is infused with awareness.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
Well, now ask yourself, how often am I truly present? When you're eating, are you savoring the taste, the texture, the sensation of the food? Or are you scrolling on your phone, barely aware of what's going into your body? When you're talking to someone, are you truly listening? Or are you already crafting your reply in your head? Presence isn't just about being mindful, it's about being alive in a way that most people never experience. But here's the paradox. The more present you become, the more detached you feel from the trivialities of life. And this leads to the second sign of an awakened person, a sense of detachment from the ego. Let me explain. The ego is the part of you that identifies with your name, your job, your accomplishments, your failures, all the things you think define you. But the awakened person understands that these are just roles we play in the human experience. They're not who we are. Imagine for a moment that you're an actor in a play. You've been given a role, a costume, a script. But deep down, you know you're not the character. You're the actor. Awakening is realizing that you're not the role you've been playing your whole life. You're not your thoughts, your emotions, or even your body. You're something deeper, something infinite. And once you realize this, the ego loses its grip on you. Now, this doesn't mean that the ego disappears completely. Even the most awakened person still has an ego. It's part of being human. But the difference is that they no longer identify with it. They see it for what it is, a tool, not a master. This detachment brings an incredible sense of freedom. Think about it. How much of your stress, your anxiety, your suffering comes from the stories your ego tells you? Stories about not being good enough, about needing to prove yourself, about fearing what others think of you. When you awaken, these stories lose their power. But here's where it gets even more profound. When you detach from the ego, you start to see the interconnectedness of all things. And this brings us to the third sign of an awakened person, a deep sense of compassion and unity with all life. The awakened person doesn't just see themselves as separate from their ego, they see themselves as inseparable from the universe. They understand on a visceral level that everything is connected. Have you ever looked up at the night sky and felt a sense of awe, as if you were part of something vast and infinite? That's just a glimpse of what the awakened person feels every day. They don't just see themselves in other people, they see themselves in the trees, the rivers, the stars. This isn't just a philosophical idea, it's an experience, and this experience changes everything. When you feel deeply connected to all life, compassion becomes your natural state. You can no longer look at another person and see them as other. You see their pain as your pain, their joy as your joy. This doesn't mean you lose your individuality. It means you transcend it. And from this place of unity, the awakened person lives in service to the world, not out of obligation, but out of love. But let's pause here for a moment. Ask yourself, do I feel connected to the world around me? When you see a stranger struggling, do you feel an urge to help? Or do you look away? When you're in nature, do you feel a sense of reverence, or are you too busy to notice? Connection isn't something you have to create, it's something you have to remember. It's already there, waiting for you to awaken to it. Another powerful sign of awakening is the ability to embrace uncertainty. Most people spend their lives trying to control everything, planning, predicting, worrying. But the awakened person has come to terms with the fact that life is unpredictable. They've realized that control is an illusion and that trying to cling to it only leads to suffering. Instead, they embrace the flow of life, trusting that everything unfolds as it's meant to. This doesn't mean they're passive or indifferent. On the contrary, they're fully engaged with life. But they don't resist what is. They don't fight reality. They move with it like a surfer riding a wave. Ask yourself, how often do I resist what's happening in my life? When things don't go as planned, do you panic or do you adapt? When challenges arise, do you see them as obstacles or as opportunities to grow? Embracing uncertainty requires faith, not in a religious sense, but in the sense of trusting the intelligence of the universe. The awakened person inconveniently knows that even the hardest moments in life have a purpose, even if it's not immediately clear. They've learned to let go of the need to know everything and instead live in a state of openness and curiosity. And this brings us to the final sign we'll explore in this part: a profound inner peace. This doesn't mean that the awakened person never feels anger, sadness, or fear. They're still human, after all. But these emotions no longer control them. They've learned to observe their emotions without being swept away by them. They've discovered that beneath the surface of their thoughts and feelings, there's a stillness, a silence, a peace that can never be disturbed. This peace isn't something they find outside themselves, it's something they uncover within, and it's available to all of us. Right now, in this moment, there's a part of you that's completely at peace. Can you feel it? We've only just begun to scratch the surface of what it means to be spiritually awakened. These signs, presence, detachment from the ego, compassion, embracing uncertainty, and inner peace, are just the beginning. In the next part, we'll dive even deeper into the most profound and transformative signs of awakening, exploring how they manifest in your life and how you can cultivate them. As we go deeper into the signs of spiritual awakening, we begin to uncover the profound transformations that change not just how we live, but how we perceive reality itself. Awakening is not just about how you feel or what you do, it's about how you see. It's about peeling back the layers of illusion and stepping into a state of clarity where the world is no longer filtered by fear, conditioning, or illusion. Everything becomes fresh, alive, and imbued with meaning. One of the most powerful transformations of awakening is the realization that truth is subjective and multifaceted. To an awakened person, the world is no longer black and white, no longer constrained by rigid ideas of what is right or wrong. They see that truth is a dynamic, ever-changing experience shaped by perspective, culture, and individual growth. This doesn't mean an awakened person believes in anything goes or that they abandon their own moral compass. It means they understand that what may be true for one person might not be true for another. They no longer feel the need to impose their beliefs on others or argue to prove themselves right. Instead, they approach conversations and conflicts with humility and curiosity. They ask themselves, what can I learn from this person's perspective? What part of their truth might expand my own understanding? Think about your own life. How often do you cling to your opinions as if they define who you are? How often do you feel the need to prove someone else wrong, to defend your version of reality? What would happen if you let go of that need and embraced the idea that truth is like a diamond, many-sided, with each facet reflecting a different light? This shift in perception leads to another profound sign of awakening: the dissolution of judgment. Judgment is one of the ego's favorite tools. It separates us from others, creating a sense of superiority or inferiority. But an awakened person has seen through the illusion of separation. They understand that judgment is just a projection of the mind, a way of avoiding their own insecurities or fears. When you awaken, you begin to see people not through the lens of judgment, but through the lens of compassion. You realize that everyone is on their own journey, doing the best they can with the level of awareness they have. This doesn't mean you condone harmful behavior or allow others to mistreat you. It means you no longer waste your energy on blame or resentment. Instead, you ask yourself, what pain or fear might be driving this person's actions? This shift isn't just about how you see others, it's also about how you see yourself. One of the hardest parts of awakening is confronting your own shadow. The shadow is the part of you that you've rejected, denied, or suppressed. The anger, jealousy, fear, or shame that you don't want to admit exists. But the awakened person knows that true transformation comes not from avoiding the shadow, but from embracing it with love and understanding. Ask yourself, what parts of myself have I been avoiding? Is it a fear of failure, a sense of unworthiness, a deep-seated anger that you've buried for years? Awakening doesn't mean erasing these parts of yourself. It means integrating them, seeing them as valuable teachers that guide you toward wholeness. As you embrace your shadow, something incredible happens. You begin to see life as a mirror. And this is another hallmark of an awakened person. They understand that the external world is a reflection of the internal world. Everything you encounter, every challenge, every relationship, every moment of joy or pain is a reflection of your own consciousness. For example, if you find yourself constantly frustrated by other people's behavior, it's often a sign that there's something unresolved within you. Maybe it's a fear of being out of control, or a belief that others should behave in a certain way to make you feel comfortable. When you awaken, you stop blaming the outside world and start taking responsibility for your own energy. You ask yourself, what is this situation teaching me about myself? What part of me needs healing or growth? This realization transforms your entire experience of life. Challenges no longer feel like punishments, they feel like opportunities. Relationships no longer feel like sources of conflict, they feel like mirrors reflecting back to you the parts of yourself that need attention. But here's where it gets even deeper. When you awaken, you don't just see life as a mirror. You see life as sacred. This is one of the most beautiful and awe-inspiring signs of awakening, a deep sense of reverence for existence itself. The awakened person looks at a flower and doesn't just see a flower, they see a miracle. They hear the wind rustling through the trees and don't just hear a sound, they feel the rhythm of the universe. They witness the vastness of the sky and don't just see clouds or stars, they feel a sense of infinite connection. This reverence extends to everything, even the mundane. Washing the dishes becomes an act of mindfulness. Walking down the street becomes a journey through a living, breathing world. Eating a meal becomes a sacred communion with the earth. But here's the question: when was the last time you truly felt awe? When was the last time you looked at the world with the wide-eyed wonder of a child? Awakening doesn't give you something new. It helps you remember what you've forgotten. It reminds you that every moment is a gift, every breath a miracle. This reverence leads to another profound transformation, a shift from seeking to being. Most of us spend our lives seeking happiness, success, love, fulfillment. But the awakened person realizes that everything they've been searching for is already within them. They stop chasing external goals and start living from a place of inner abundance. This doesn't mean they stop striving or achieving. It means their motivation comes from a place of joy, not lack. They pursue their dreams not because they need to prove their worth, but because they want to express the fullness of who they are. They give freely, love deeply, and create passionately, not to get something in return, but because they've tapped into an endless wellspring of energy within themselves. So let me ask you, what are you seeking right now? And what would happen if you stopped seeking and started being? What if you realized that you already have everything you need to feel whole, complete, and fulfilled? As we continue this journey, it's important to remember that awakening is not a destination. It's a state of being. It's not something you achieve once and for all. It's something you embody, moment by moment. And the deeper you go, the more you realize that awakening isn't about changing who you are. It's about remembering who you've been all along. In the next part, we'll explore the most advanced signs of awakening, the ones that completely transform your relationship with time, space, and reality itself. These are the signs that take you beyond the personal and into the universal, beyond the self and into the infinite. As we continue this journey into the most powerful signs of spiritual awakening, we now step into the realm where the personal dissolves into the infinite. Awakening is not just about finding peace, presence, or compassion. It's about fundamentally transforming how you perceive reality itself. It's about moving beyond the mind's constructs of time, space, and self, and stepping into a state of pure awareness where everything is interconnected, timeless, and eternal. One of the most profound signs of an awakened person is their shift in relationship with time. For most people, time is a source of stress, fear, or regret. We spend our lives either dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. The present moment, the only moment that truly exists, often feels like nothing more than a fleeting space between what was and what might be. But for the awakened person, time takes on an entirely different quality. They begin to perceive it not as a linear progression, but as a vast, eternal now. They realize that the past and future are mental constructs created by the mind. The only thing that truly exists is this moment. this breath, this heartbeat, this awareness. Here's the mind-bending part. When you awaken, you begin to see that even the concept of now dissolves. There's no longer a separation between past, present, and future. Everything is happening simultaneously, in one infinite flow. This is why awakened individuals often radiate a sense of timelessness. They are not bound by the clock or the calendar because they realize that time is an illusion, a tool for navigating the material world, but not the ultimate reality. Ask yourself, how much of my life is spent outside the present moment? How often do you replay old memories, wishing you could change them? How often do you worry about what's to come, trying to control an unpredictable future? What would happen if you let go of these thoughts and fully immersed yourself in the now? When you begin to live in this timeless awareness, something extraordinary happens. You stop rushing. You stop feeling like there's never enough time. You move through life with ease, grace, and flow, because you're no longer trying to outrun an imaginary clock. And perhaps even more importantly, you begin to notice the subtle, miraculous unfolding of life in every moment. This shift in time perception leads directly to another profound transformation, the collapse of the concept of space. Most of us perceive the world as out there, separate from ourselves. We see objects, people, and places as distinct, occupying their own space, disconnected from us. But an awakened person begins to see through this illusion. They realize that the boundaries we perceive between ourselves and the world are entirely mental constructs. Imagine you're standing on the shore, looking at the ocean. You see the waves, the horizon, the vast expanse of water stretching out before you. But what if I told you that you're not just looking at the ocean, you are the ocean? This isn't just a poetic metaphor, it's a direct experience that arises in awakening. You begin to feel deep in your being that you're not separate from anything. The same energy that moves the waves moves through you. The same intelligence that grows the trees beats in your heart. This realization isn't intellectual, it's experiential. It's as if the walls between you and the world dissolve, and you feel yourself as part of a vast, interconnected whole. And here's the incredible part. When you truly embody this understanding, you no longer feel lonely. You no longer feel separate, isolated, or adrift in the universe. You realize that you've always been home because you are the universe. But this raises a deeply profound question. If you're not separate from the world, who are you? This brings us to one of the most advanced signs of awakening, the dissolution of the self. The self, as we typically understand it, is a collection of thoughts, memories, and identities. It's the voice in your head that says, I am this, or I am that. But the awakened person has seen through this illusion. They've realized that the self is not a fixed entity. It's a temporary construct created by the mind to navigate the world. Imagine a wave on the ocean. The wave might think, "I'm a wave. I'm separate from the other waves. I have my own shape, my own movement, my own path." But in reality, the wave is just the ocean, temporarily expressing itself in a certain form. When the wave dissolves back into the ocean, nothing is lost. It simply returns to its true nature. This is what happens in awakening. You begin to see that the self you've always identified with is like the wave, temporary, transient, and ultimately an expression of something much greater. You're not your thoughts, your emotions, or even your body. You're the awareness in which all of these arise. And when you truly realize this, you experience a freedom unlike anything else. But here's the paradox. Even as the sense of self dissolves, you don't lose your individuality. You still have a body, a personality, a unique perspective. But you no longer cling to these things as if they define you. You move through the world with a sense of lightness, knowing that you're both the wave and the ocean, both the individual and the infinite. This leads to another profound sign of awakening: a complete surrender to the flow of life. Most of us spend our lives resisting what is. We fight against reality, trying to bend it to our will. But the awakened person understands that resistance only creates suffering. They've learned to surrender, not in the sense of giving up, but in the sense of aligning themselves with the natural flow of existence. Surrender doesn't mean you stop taking action or making decisions. It means you stop fighting against what's happening. You trust the intelligence of the universe, knowing that everything unfolds exactly as it's meant to. This trust allows you to let go of fear, anxiety, and control, and to move through life with grace and ease. Finally, the most advanced sign of awakening is the realization of oneness. This isn't just a feeling of connection or unity, it's the direct experience that there is no other. The boundaries between self and world, subject and object, dissolve completely. You see that everything is one, that the universe is a single, undivided whole, expressing itself in infinite forms. This realization changes everything. You no longer see the world as something out there. You see it as yourself. You no longer see others as separate beings. You see them as reflections of the same consciousness that animates you. And in this state of oneness, there's no fear, no division, no conflict, only love. In the next and final part, we'll explore the practical aspects of awakening, how to embody these signs in your daily life, and how to live as an awakened person in a world that often feels anything but awakened. Awakening is not simply a mystical experience or a fleeting realization. It's a way of being. It's not enough to glimpse the truth of your infinite nature for a brief moment and then return to old patterns. The real power of awakening lies in embodying it, in living it fully, in integrating that profound understanding into every aspect of your daily life. This is where the awakened person truly distinguishes themselves, not in grand gestures, but in how they show up in the seemingly ordinary moments of existence. One of the most practical and immediate ways to live as an awakened soul is to cultivate radical presence in everything you do. When you awaken, you begin to understand that every moment of life is sacred, no matter how mundane it may seem. The simple act of washing your hands, for instance, can become an opportunity to connect deeply with the miracle of water, with the sensation of touch, with the gratitude for a body that is alive and responsive. Presence means engaging with life without distraction, judgment, or resistance. It means fully inhabiting the moment you are in, whether it's joyful, painful, or neutral. This might sound simple, but it's one of the most profound practices of awakening. When you are present, you are no longer lost in the stories of your mind. You are no longer burdened by regrets of the past or anxieties about the future. You are here, fully alive, fully aware. Another key aspect of embodying awakening is practicing compassionate detachment. This might seem contradictory at first. How can you be deeply compassionate and detached at the same time? But the awakened person understands that true compassion does not come from attachment. It comes from love. When you are attached to the outcomes of your actions, your relationships, or even your spiritual growth, you create suffering for yourself and others. Attachment comes from the ego's desire to control, to cling, to make things conform to its expectations. But when you practice compassionate detachment, you let go of the need to control. You allow yourself to love fully without needing anything in return. You help others without being attached to whether or not they change. You accept life as it is without demanding it be a certain way. This doesn't mean you become passive or indifferent. On the contrary, it means you engage with life more fully because you are no longer weighed down by fear or expectation. Compassionate detachment allows you to act from a place of clarity and love rather than reactivity or need. Another essential practice for living as an awakened soul is to honor the interconnectedness of all life. Awakening isn't just about personal enlightenment, it's about recognizing that you are part of something much greater than yourself. You are not a separate being, isolated from the world. You are a thread in the vast tapestry of existence, and every action you take ripples outward, affecting the whole. This understanding transforms how you interact with the world. You begin to treat others with kindness and respect, not because it's the right thing to do, but because you see them as a reflection of yourself. You approach nature with reverence, knowing that the earth, the trees, the rivers, and the animals are not resources to be exploited, but sacred expressions of the same consciousness that flows through you. Living this way requires mindfulness in your daily choices. Are you consuming more than you need? Are you treating others with patience and understanding even when it's difficult? Are you contributing to the well-being of the planet, or are you taking from it without giving back? An awakened soul doesn't strive for perfection, they strive for alignment. They ask themselves, how can I live in a way that honors the interconnectedness of all things? Living as an awakened soul doesn't mean escaping the challenges of life. It means embracing them with grace and wisdom. It means showing up every day with love, presence, and humility. It means seeing the divine in yourself, in others, and in the world around you. And, most importantly, it means living in a way that inspires others to awaken to their own infinite nature. When you live this way, you become a light in the world. You don't need to preach or convince anyone of anything. Your presence alone becomes a beacon, gently guiding others toward their own awakening. This is the path of an awakened soul. It's not always easy, but it is always worth it. And the beauty is, it's available to all of us, right here, right now, in this very moment.